And as you can see here, he's become a fabulous painter of jazz. Colin lives in the Waikato region of New Zealand, which is kind of a northern part of the North Island. You can explain that better maybe. Near Hamilton, if you want to find it on a map. And I've been through a number of classes and residentials with Colin and helped him to achieve his instructor and advanced instructor status. And he's great intellect, deeply involved with the local Maori people in New Zealand. I remember well being invited to teach in the town of Whanganui, which is kind of to the south of the North Island, and then driving up along the Whanganui River, which he'll talk about, and feeling the landscape so deeply there. And I looked at these pastures with the sheep and the cattle, and I remembered my dinner at the hotel of a lovely lamb dish, and it suddenly occurred to me that pasture is also I'm eating grass. That's my digestive system out there in front of me is my digestive system. Then I began to see how my immune system was out there, how my respiratory system is how these physiologic processes are just sort of splayed out across the landscape and throughout society. Changed my sense of the body immensely, and I attribute that to my time with Colin. Looking at his paintings. I don't know how it works. Anyway, I understand you've prepared a video for us.
All right.
And I hope that afterwards there'll be time for some conversation.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. No mai haere mai. Haere mai ki te kaupapa o te pou. I ngā hoe mahi, tēnā koutou katoa. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tautau katoa. Hello and welcome. Welcome to this evening's sessions. Greetings to all of you. Welcome once, welcome twice, welcome 3 times. Greetings to you all. I said evening, actually it's morning, and over here, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's actually Monday, not Sunday. And so I've got good news for you that tomorrow for you, if you're Sunday today, the weather is really good. So it's going to be a good day. I'm really humbled to be invited to present, and even more frightened by the fact that we've had so many profound speakers and commentary during the sessions that we've had so far. I feel somewhat intrepidated by that, but we'll take it for where it goes. First, I want to honor 2 people. Obviously, I want to honor Richard, who I see as a gentle giant. He's imaginative and consistently inconsistent. Just when I get his new ideas, then he evolves them some way. I think Oscar Wilde said, consistency is the last refuge of the unimaginative. And I played in the field with Richard many times, and many times I've lost my toys and he's helped me find them. So thank you, Richard. I also want to acknowledge Bailey. Bailey was a very dear woman, and I very much appreciated working with her and learning under her mantle. And last night I came across a little quote by Lucy Pierce that says, "For sure we walk a spiral path, but for generations of women, the spirals were so tightly packed that it seemed they were going round in circles. Let us blaze trails so that the path we walk takes in wider and wider sweeps of human experience. And to me, Bailey was one who blazed trails with loving kindness. There isn't a week that goes by that I don't think of her and her loving kindness and her gratitude. She took me under her wing and nurtured me, and I will never forget that. So having said that, any errors that I make or misinterpretations, I take full responsibility for. And being an Ortho-Bionomy person, I will immediately begin self-correcting. Being the last speaker, of course, in this conference, I'm not sure that I can add much more. So if you feel that you want to go to sleep, feel very welcome, because I understand it is evening for most of you. The session format today, I pre-recorded the talk primarily because I was concerned about the internet connectivity. And then we can follow it up with a question and answer time. Actually, I'd rather it be a question time because I don't like answers because they close things down. So if we could have a question and question time, that would be really good. So let's talk. Let's see if we can get the video up. Tēnā koutou katoa, greetings to you all. My birthplace was Whanganui, alongside the Whanganui Awa, the Whanganui River. In 2017, the Whanganui Awa was granted personhood by an act of the Parliament of Aotearoa-New Zealand. This means it is the first river in the world to be recognised as an indivisible and living being with all the rights, powers, duties and liabilities of a legal person. In short, the Act confers a legal responsibility or personality on the Whanganui Awa, giving it the same rights as a person. This practice is not new in Aotearoa. In 2014, Parliament granted Te Uruwera, formerly a national park, the same legal status for the Tūhoe people. The Whanganui people have a deep connection with the Awa. The people have a whakatauaki, a traditional proverbial saying, ko au te awa, ko te awa ko au. I am the river, and the river is me. Arthur Pauls, the founder of Ortho-Bionomy, said that if I and the universe are one, then I am the universe and the universe is me. No duality, you and I are as one. Anything that affects you also affects me. It tells me what effects are and are not. For me, this intimate and dynamic connectedness is at the heart of Ortho-Bionomy. Each day, this challenges how I come to understand and work with Ortho-Bionomy.
Mai te kāhui maunga ki Tangaroa, ko au te awa, ko te awa ko au. So all of us that are uri or genealogically connect to any one of our marae from the mountain to the sea, that gives our birthright is our connection to our awa. It's about us knowing that we are the river, that the river doesn't just flow from the mountain to the sea, the river flows everywhere where we go. Wherever I walk, that's the Whanganui River and its influence. Wherever my wānau and wherever our marae and wherever our uri, people of our awa walk, that's the river walking, and therefore the river talking. It could be hard for some people to understand that intimate connection that we have with our awa, but it's really true that we are the river and the river is us.
Let me suggest 3 kinds of relational connectedness: intra-relational connectedness, interrelational connectedness, and transrelational connectedness. Now, I do have a reservation though. Words have the power to separate and cause distinctions. As I shall argue, relational connectedness is transactional, fluid, and dynamic. There are no boundaries, no barriers between these forms of relational connectedness. They are fluid and they are transactional. When one changes, so too do the others, which in turn change the former. Nothing remains static, but evolves. Intrarelational connectedness is concerned with a deep, meaningful connection with oneself. It is an awareness of and a sense of harmony with oneself, one's identity, and their personhood. This is about me having an evolving, meaningful knowing of who I am as a person and who I am as a practitioner. Interrelational connectedness is a deep, meaningful connection with others and with the world around us, including time and place. This includes my evolving relationship with the client and extends into community, the land, rivers, and universe. Transrelational connectedness is a deep, meaningful connection of self with the spiritual aspects of life, including beauty, awe and wonderment, aesthetics, and the mysteries of life. Transrelational connectedness puts me in front of the big, unfathomable questions of life, in that place which inspires me, bewilders me, empowers me with optimism and openness to expect the unexpected. Now, when there's a synergy in relational connectedness, then it might be said that one is being authentic to oneself, to others, and to the universe. There is, as Christian scriptures suggest, power in this place of agreement between self, others, and the mysteries of life. Put another way, ortho-bionomy is about enabling functional balance between the mind, body, and spirit. Arthur Paul said it this way: any activity, body, mind, spirit, has balance, else it couldn't function. Therefore, it is only natural to recover from imbalances. If we cannot, we settle and adapt to the next best thing, a balanced imbalance. This enabling of functional balance also seeks to be efficient, which may explain how some traumas are held in the body. Kathy Kane and Stephen Terrell said, "The body conducts a constant balancing act, working to allocate its resources to necessary functions without supplying too much or too little energy." The human body is amazing. So let's consider embodied self-awareness. Our sense of connection depends on the knowing of ourselves. This knowing of ourself is not as a separate entity or being, but through ongoing embodied self-awareness. Alan Fogel says embodied self-awareness is an intimate knowledge of our bodily sensations and needs. For me, and like Ash who spoke earlier, I not only see my river, but I feel bodily sensations it produces in me. It is not disconnected from who I am. It is not an object. Beauty does not reside in an object, which is something that is disconnected from who we are. It is my bodily sensations, my DNA, if you like. As our capacity for embodied self-awareness deepens, we learn to register and tap into our bodily sensations. We listen and feel, not just with our eyes, ears, and hands, but at a deeper, somewhat more indescribable level. Our skin creates a physical sensory boundary with what we consider to be external and not of us. It serves to give and receive information from the surroundings, including from other people. Some refer to this as energy or electromagnetic vibrations. For several decades, neuroscientists have explored what they refer to as peripersonal space, that space immediately surrounding our bodies. We might crudely say that is an extension of the proprioceptors external to the physical body, touching the beyond the immediate us. Concepts such as electromagnetic vibrations and peripersonal space provide interesting insights into our functioning, especially regarding perception and the brain. But these also, through the limitations of language, separate this from that, which is an antithesis of the being oneness. This does seem at odds with Arthur Paul's assertion that I am the universe and the universe and I are one. And also the whakatoaki, I am the river and the river is me. When we erect barriers through words or even concepts within the mind or actions, we create separation and not connectedness. Disconnectedness also impedes the flow of our sensations. Simone Weil said, we have to feel the universe through each sensation. As we dissolve barriers that separate, we extend the possibilities of registering deeper and richer flows of sensations to inform our Ortho-Bionomy work. Simone Weil goes further and says, let the whole universe be for me in relation to my body what the stick of a blind man is in relation to his hand. His sensibility is really no longer in his hand, but at the end of the stick. This quotation got me thinking. I wonder whether the boundaries between the inner and outer landscapes of a vision-impaired person tend to be more blurred, softening the borders between the internal and the external while enhancing a reliance on kinesthetics. And is that a capacity I ought to develop in my Ortho-Bionomy practice? Sometimes our borders between the internal and external are shaped by traumatic circumstances. When our physical body suffers change through severe injuries such as reconstructive surgery, loss of a limb and so on, we confront a need to recreate our sense of embodied self. I like what Manderson says. If the body is a coat to the soul, is the soul or the self unscathed when the fabric is frayed and the seams restitched? Some decades ago, I had a rather dramatic leg surgery which left me on crutches for 6 months. During this time, I struggled with a sense of disconnection between the traumatized leg and the rest of my body. There was my body, and then there was the leg. I recall how this influenced others, such as family and friends, who welcomed me and then, with genuine concern, asked after the leg, as if welcoming a separate entity. The dynamic of healing for me needed to engage both myself, my intra-relational connectedness, as well as myself and others in relation to each other, my interrelational connectedness. Let me share 2 stories. Cron said, story, as it turns out, is crucial to our evolution, more so than opposable thumbs. Opposable thumbs let us hang on. Story told us what to hang on to it. Rakilan from Ngāti Porou to Whanau o Apanui tribes shared this with me. He said, I was raised by 5 nannies. They were all healers. We referred to Waitahi, which means body or repository, vessel or housing, the Waitahi of the Wairua, which is the spirit. A crack in the waitahi allows the wairua to leak, while a contaminant can pollute the wairua and dissolve the waitahi. This notion of wai, which can be referred to as liquid or water or river, then flows into the whānau, which is family. Ra's story highlights the relational connectedness of self and others, and how it extends into whānau, into family, during the healing dynamic. Healing encompasses more than the person. It flows within and beyond the physical and spiritual body. Ra also makes the point that when there is an eroding of the connection between the waitahi and the wairua, the healing must begin within. Simple restatements of foundational osteopathic and ortho-Bionomy principles. So let me share another story. In 2011, I was gifting clinic sessions to people of the river in a very small village called Matahiwi up the Whanganui Awa. As was customary, clients arrived not alone but with their family, who sat around the room on chairs and on the floor, talking, sometimes singing, sometimes watching as I worked with the client on the table. I recall feeling a little intimidated at first, and I found my work became somewhat mechanical and stilted. To be frank, I was disappointed with myself. It was then that I heard the flow of the river. I allowed the flow of the river to become part of me, embodied presence, not just as a visual image and sound, but as being one with. After all, I am the river, and the river is me. My work changed dramatically, beginning to flow with the sensation of the river moving within me, somewhat akin to the Volary experience. I sensed there was a change in the atmosphere, and with the client on the table, somehow the connectedness with the family became more intimately part of what I was experiencing, and the healing dynamics seemed to intensify for the client. As I continued, I found that my moves began to acknowledge the presence of being with and part of the family. It was as if the prevailing systems were opening possibilities for movements that I had not previously contemplated or simply ignored. The unspoken presence of family somehow empowered what was happening. It seemed a mystery. The work felt supported, natural and flowing, dissolving restrictions and allowing freedom to prevail. It was no longer mine and the client's work alone. Place your hands on your sternum. Allow them to cradle in a comfort position. Register this sensation in your body. Remain present. Now make connection with your special river. Register the sensations of the river's flow, the temperature, smells and sounds in your body, in your emotions, tissues. Sense your river weaving through the hills and the sensation this engages in your body. Allow your hands to receive the phase 5 or phase 6 or phase 7 or all of these, invitation, and follow. Notice any changes in the sensation you are registering in your body about the sternum. Now in the Māori world, the depression in the sternum is called te awanga or te poho, where poho refers to the chest and awanga is a natural valley carved in the earth by a river. It was of little surprise that many of the revelations that Arthur Pauls had occurred during his dreams of travelling in space. He said, "We and the universe are one. Every atom in our being is a symbol of universal energy." The dynamic of working with relational connectedness means that as my body moves, so does the client and others and the universe, for these are of the same whole. It's something akin to a dessert jelly, which when poked moves as a whole, not in parts. If we move and there is resistance, then the principle of Ortho-Bionomy is to find that place of freedom, moving away from the restriction. It's an efficient way of working, moving to where there is no resistance. The relationship between planetary systems, systems of planting, harvesting and gathering, and the sustenance of people is well established in traditional beliefs. In Aotearoa, Matariki illustrates our connectedness with the planetary. Matariki is a cluster of stars, and Matariki's reappearance and alignment signals the new year. The brighter and clearer the stars are, the warmer the growing season will be, ensuring a good harvest. The celebration of New Year varies throughout the country for several days across June and July, depending on the timing of Matariki. Now, there are two crucial indicators here: alignment and timing. As an aside, one sign of Matariki is the kereru, which is the bush pigeon. It eats the berries at this time, many of which are overripe and fermenting, making the bird drunk and easy to catch. So this is a nice example of the planetary interconnecting with the forest, land and birds and nourishing the people. And as I suggest later, and as Arthur Paul stresses in his writings, timing is of paramount importance in alignment when working with Ortho-Bionomy. So let's get practical. Or as Martin Shaw, the storyteller, says, practical gets up from the table and goes to the tool shed when too many big words are used. Ortho-Bionomy is only a vehicle, not the outcome or the reason. We often are privileged to witness healings as we work using Ortho-Bionomy. I'm reminded that a finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. The finger is needed to know where to look for the moon, but if you mistake the finger for the moon itself, you will never know the real moon. As we open experientially to what is happening in the present, we begin to appreciate healing as not just being the release of tissue or the restriction of a joint, but a transactional relationship between the client and us, ourselves, others, and the universe. As I change, we all change. As others change, I change. Ortho-Bionomy is culturally situated. While the principles remain constant, their expression, even as these evolve, will and ought to reflect the context in which Ortho-Bionomy work happens. As a practitioner in Aotearoa, this continues to challenge me and raise questions in my day-to-day practice with Ortho-Bionomy. Are my practices truly culturally situated? Furthermore, it raises questions about how Ortho-Bionomy training programs are meeting the needs of our participants in a culturally situated way. Ortho-Bionomy, timing and flow. Arthur Paul said, timing and the sequence of events are essential parts of all action, and indeed non-action as well. There is an unfolding in natural timing and patterns of which, as a practitioner, I am often unaware. Matariki reminds me of this. Alignment happens in its timing, and this varies from place to place, situation to situation. Sensing the embodied flow, physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, causes us to need to slow down even more. Ortho-Bionomy is about nurturing to enhance belongingness and connectedness, not separation. It is said that those who are nurtured best survive best. Ortho-Bionomy is concerned with moving towards places of comfort to be able to have the big sigh and reconnect, creating nurturing spaces where the barriers of restrictions may be dissolved. It involves subjectifying rather than objectifying. Bohr said, "I guess I'm trying to subjectify the universe because look where objectifying it has gotten us." To subjectify is not necessarily to co-opt, colonize, exploit. Rather, it may involve a great reach outward of the mind and imagination. I believe that this nurturing begins with ourselves, learning to hear, respond to, and live in embodied self-awareness, and learning to connect to the song of the river and the land, reminding us that we're all part of something larger. And as a practitioner, I am an integral member of this evolvement, not just a part, but within the dynamic systems. Opening the spiral of Ortho-Bionomy phases, I find myself needing to unshackle myself from the conceptual barriers between the phases and work as the river flows. Arthur Pauls said, "I have learned so much about the limitless ways of using and explaining different phases, but we must not get so confined within a closed ring of thinking that we don't see the open spiral, evolving ever onwards." Opening possibilities for mystery, awe and wonderment. Let me quote you something. According to physicists, this is what the world is like. It is a universe permeated with movement and energy that vibrates and pulses with access to many dimensions. We are all interconnected, not just spiritually or imaginally, and the explicate or manifested order that's all around us makes us think that we're separate. I learned that ideas of dominance were predicated on a Newtonian clockwork universe. So like dynamos, you push one and they all fall down and everything is in order. But quantum physics tells us that the world is completely different. Particles burst into existence in unpredictable ways. Observations affect the observed, and dreams of order and rationality are not the building blocks of the universe. I am slowly realizing that as a practitioner, I need to nurture awe and wonderment, and to welcome mystery, to expect the unpredictable, to dwell on the questions rather than to try and seek the answers. When I stand in that place, I open up space for new possibilities rather than close them down. This means expanding my sensitivities. Someone said the universe of science is not a place for humans to live in. When I rely simply on what I can hear, touch, observe and describe, my work becomes devoid of mystery, awe and wonderment. It closes off, places barriers up and separates us from the essence that permeates life, the flow of the river. Ortho-Bionomy, the river, the land, the planet. Albert Einstein said, he experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as someone separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. I'm finding that it is not enough to simply draw from the essence of others, of the land, rivers and seas, or of the universe. Our relationship is transactional. That means we have a commitment and a responsibility to enable healing not just to others, but also in the planet. This includes supporting those who support others, the reforestation of our naked lands, the cleansing of our rivers and lakes. How might we do this? How we do this is a personal choice. My clinic donates consultation fees to social service organisations that serve to heal others. My instructor fees are donated to reforestation programs, ensuring our land is clothed in native trees to regenerate and heal the land and the air. These are just small affirmations of our transactional relationship. In the Māori language, the word whenua means land, and it also means placenta. Placenta buried in the land. We are one and the same. Ko Aotearoa, ko te awa ko o. I am the river, and the river is me. And as Arthur Paul said, if I and the universe are one, then I am the universe, and the universe is me. No duality. You and I are as one. Anything that affects you also affects me. It tells me what effects are and are not. Kia ora.
Wow. Lee Cassidy says, what a finale to the convention. Sincere thanks, Colin. So I think that goes for everybody. The ending there remind me of a famous statement by the Spanish philosopher Jose Ortega y Gasset, who said, I am I and my circumstance.
Right.
Circumstancia. If I do not change, if I do not save it, I do not save myself.
Yeah. Yeah. For it is yourself as well. For they are all one. I just, I've been amazed at the kind of themes that have been coming out on the conference. And I think of Roel's work where he was saying, where do I begin and where do I end? You know, we have to find the phase 7 in each of us. It's a state of being, is what he said. And it's something along that line. I truly appreciate that, because when I think of the river is not something that I imagine in my body. It is with me. And Ash from Whanganui said it really lovely. He said something like, the river flows wherever I go. Wherever I walk, the river walks. Wherever I talk, the river talks. So it's not imaginary. And I think this is the difference between one level of connectedness and another level of connectedness, which is a lived experience kind of connectedness. How do we achieve that? I don't know. In my own life, I go back to thinking of when I was age 12, and I used to tell a little lie to my mother. I'd say, I'm going to Rogers Place to play. And I'd get on my little rally bike and I would bike about 10 kilometers to the hills by the river. And when I got there, probably exhausted, I fell on the hills and I held them. And I could feel the sensation of the hills in my hands. And I looked up and I could see the legs of the hills. And I could see the body forms of the hills. And I could see the limitlessness of the horizon. And then I'd get back on my bike and I'd bike home again. And so that kind of experience of, it was really probably a voluntary experience in many ways, of sensing the deep connectedness that we have with the land and allowing that to dwell within us does bring forth a new possibility in my work, I find. An example would be painting. When I go to a landscape and I've never been there before, like Scotland, I usually get terribly concerned. But I've learned to actually begin to reach out and allow the connectedness between the land to come down my arms into who I am. And when it happens that way, then I'm able to engage into some more creative work. Richard.
There's a conversation we've had a couple of times, I think, and you can correct me on any details of it, but the essence was something to the effect that when you've completed a big artistic project and are feeling like empty, there's a feeling, I think others have expressed this to you as well, that in order to work again, I have to become a better person. And this has made me become aware that ethics and aesthetics are the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We have in the ethics of care. It is incumbent upon us to constantly become a better person. After each session, I must become a better person.
Yeah, yeah. The poet James K. Baxter said after he'd written work, and the painter Colin McCann said, looked at his exhibition and said, I like it. And then he said, I can't paint again until I'm a better person. And this intimacy is really quite dynamic. It takes me back to the educational Quaker Parker Palmer, who says, I teach out of the person I am. And I think that there's a parallel there, that I practice ortho-bionomy, I'm making that a verb, ortho-bionomy out of the person I am. You make it a verb because it is an action. Someone referred to, Thomas Myers mentioned about your body as a verb. It's a process, not a machine. And so I think there's a lot of truth in that. So when I'm doing my ortho-bionomy, then I'm actually drawing upon who I am as a person. And that's where I think, while I try to keep out of the work, I'm in the work. You can't not be there, because the essence and presence is there anyway, and you are part of the whole. Unmute, Richard.
They keep muting me. Somebody keeps doing that. Are you questions, comments from others in the audience? Because Karen has something.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm right here. Hi. I have a question about evolvement in spirituality, because that's what this feels like to me. And I think my question is that sort of who we are versus who we can become. And because it seems to me that we have this in us, but maybe some have more or less in us, and how much we can open up to get to the point that we're one.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, we do have this tendency to break things up into the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, the mental, and so on. And then we start to fragment them again. And so are we talking about the spiritual? I don't know. We're talking about being. But a good question.
Liam, go ahead now, I guess. Unmute, Liam.
Okay, there.
Yeah,
I
there you
wanted to
go.
ask, when one identifies with nature, is one likely to struggle with, as I have, the sense that the bulk of human civilization may have become in some ways analogous to a cancer? Or do you have any guidance for someone who's feeling that? How can I maintain a sense of purpose as a healer if I feel that humanity is a cancer?
I can't answer that one. What I can say is that, you know, it's our point of connection and how we connect. And I've mentioned in the wee chat there about the need for reaching out in connection in terms of awe and wonderment and mystery and so on. And those are unfathomable things. And I think that as we do that within our practice, it actually changes our expectation. It's no longer clinical in that sense, but we can be surprised because we have the unexpected. So I think it's a way in which we're connecting, for me anyway.
Before we go on to Robert, I want to say that there's a lot of really good literature out there about humans being natural. We are here naturally. Nature put us here. And you know that can be explored. You know, our sense of nature is also very, very peculiar. Nature is a creation of us to begin with, and I'll be short, but by many, nature is feared and hated. I mean, there are abhorrent things about nature. It's horrible and it will kill you. Besides being beautiful and wonderful, making your heart beat. So it's a very complicated issue. That's enough said on that. Robert, let's hear from you.
Thank you. You know, I learned from my meditation teacher that there is an advanced state of consciousness where one actually knows within oneself that one is everything and that one is one with everything, that I am inner being. And I admit that I have been sort of waiting for the experience of that rather than dwelling on the intellectual construct of that, as what you've been saying. And I'm inspired by your work that you just presented to no longer wait for that experience, maybe a permanent experience, but to go ahead and just dwell on these beautiful ideas. And the dwelling on it, I think, can propel me forward. So I'm very grateful to your presentation.
Robert, I really appreciate what you've said, and it does make me always, I said it earlier, but it makes me realize that we need to spend more time just dwelling in the questions rather than trying to get the answers. We live in a commodified society and we're always looking for the answer, when in fact we can enjoy the questions, and the questions do have the propensity to open up the way in which we think and feel and respond.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
Go ahead now. Unmute yourself, Lee.
Thank you, Colin.
Hello, Lee.
Hello. I remember gratefully when I met you at Bailey's, and I will remember that very fondly forever. I loved your presentation. It hit home, and it hit home in many different ways. One specifically in when I first started in ortho-bionomy, it was how do I teach people to do this themselves, or work as a teacher and allow people to learn and take it home with them and do it themselves and spread it around the universe, and let's have it through all the elementary school kids. And well, I went a little bananas, but whatever. And I'm still doing that, but how we do it and how we explain and that all facets of our being. I think of what Liam was just saying about cancer. And I have a client that had cancer, and she saw what the picture was, and we went online and looked at what cancer looked like. And it looked like flowers, like quite literally the images, because I'm an artist as well. And I look at images like, wow, what does that look like? And coming at it from like the fourth way of calculating what's for, oh, that look, so what is your garden growing? And she said, well, you know, they sort of look really interesting, but I don't think that's what I want in my garden. And I think that coming back to self and the river, and I know a lot of people who live in cities, well, I just can't do that. It's like, and where is your mind? Did you never go camping? Well, I hate the outdoors. I get bitten like crazy by mosquitoes. And there's always different ways of looking at it. And nature is going outside and being able to breathe the air in your space as well. It's not the same as when you're by a river, no. But if that's what you do when you go outside in the city, you go to a park and you sit on a bench and you just appreciate grass tickling your feet. It's all nature. And I so appreciated your presentation because it makes me remember and do that. And I will do so even more now and not feel like I'm a weirdo up in Quesnel. It's like, it's just gorgeous. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate, from intellectual to spiritual to mental to physical. Yeah, we are all one. And so thank you phenomenally. And thanks everyone for the whole conference. It's changed everything all over again.
Thank you, Lee.
And I see Liz Olivas up there. I wish you two could meet. If you
Hello,
have.
Liz.
I wish you could meet everybody.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just thought of what Lee was just saying, and I just thought, you know, living in a city or an extended suburb or however, whatever this is, you know, it's, you know, we think about our structures and what we've built on this as the positive versus the negative of the backdrop of nature that we build in. But really, maybe we could start thinking of the backdrop as the positive and the other parts as the negative. And it just occurred to me that, you know, when you're talking about that, yeah, what is nature to us? To be able to walk outside and breathe the air and just to give it all value instead of it just being convenient. You know, it's something we drive through, our roads go through, you know, we put trees on them to make it look pretty. And anyway, it was just a spurring of ongoing thought from what you said, Lee.
Nice. Thank you, Liz.
It looks like we have a moment of silence now. There's no.
And isn't it good?
I see no more questions or comments. And how much more time have we here that we could steal from the conference? Oh, here's some questions.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Okay, Ann Kilby, come from Northern California. Is that, you're in California now, right, Ann?
At the moment, yes. Otherwise,
Hello,
Western Washington, but so that coast. Thank you very, very much, Colin. What I wanted to comment about is when you had us get in touch with our river, and I saw my river and mountain system, which I have been trying to come to terms with, that is joyfully, but come to terms with for a long time, especially thinking about climate change. I'm not supposed to drive up and down, using up petroleum for this, but I have literally these geographical portions of what might be thought of as my mission. So I'm the river and the river is me. Well, there are 6 rivers and several mountains involved and Puget Sound. So I keep looking for, and you have now provided a sense that I've got companions, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And of course, it has both helped and hindered me in ortho-bionomy, but really, it's very joyful. And I want to thank you very, very much.
Aye.
Ronald, you're up next, I think. Ronald, you're using your cricket voice again. Now you're mute. Is that a cricket voice to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes, he's going up to Lynn's computer so you can hear him.
I thought it was the helium balloon phenomenon.
Well, let's go to Ray, and maybe in the meantime, Ronald and Lynn.
He's here. He's here.
Never mind. He just had to change rooms.
Yes, I changed rooms. You know, there were several things I found kind of touching and disturbing at the same time. Now, I'm in New Jersey, and I grew up in New York City. And to me, my river has been the people. I've ridden subways with thousands and thousands of people. I've walked the streets with thousands and thousands of people. And there is no cancer, there's fear and upset. And to me, having been, studying ortho-bionomy and having been a homeopath for so many years, my soul feels for the people. And it's in the rivers, because I had the East River and the Hudson River on either side, and and I worked as an engineer building structures. And I always compare building structures with building the body or healing the body or repairing the structures. All is one. And therefore, to me, the spirit of humanity must encompass everything that we see and feel have created. We've created everything we see around us. And we don't always like it, but we've created it, and we can uncreate that which we don't like. And right now, during this COVID, the one thing I miss the most is all those people. And I've had people come to New York City and say, it's so crowded. How do you get around with all these people? And I've said, well, then you've never had the joy of Christmas at Rockefeller Center. Or maybe you didn't get to go to Woodstock, where thousands and thousands of people were jammed into muddy rain and had joy. So it's all a perspective of where we are in our spirit is how we broadcast in front of us what we see. You know, you can see things as black and white, or you can see all the beauty and color and sound of everything there is in the city or in the jungle. There's a beauty in everything we see because, like you say, I am the universe, and the universe is me. Thank you for your wonderful lecture. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was
To Ray in Wisconsin. Hi, Ray. Unmute. There you go.
Hi, got it now.
Hi, Ray.
I want to draw back and remind us that nature is a separation. Calling something outside of myself nature separates me from it. I am the nature is me. If I love myself, then I love all that's around me. If we see people who don't recognize that, then we can help them to remember that it is them. And why would they punish themselves? Why would they pollute themselves? Can they make a different choice to love themselves, which is everything? Thank you very much, Colin. This was an excellent capstone.
That's a lovely statement, Ray. And you know, it does go back to what we said earlier on about how the river has become a legal entity you know, having the rights and responsibilities of a human being. And guess what? I'm a human being too. And so the way in which I relate to the river and need to relate to the river is as if it is me as well. So, and it is, because it lives within me. Where the river flows, that's wherever I go. And so it becomes just one rather than separate, like you say. Thank you. I think our time is pretty well up, and
time is up and hands have stopped going up. So
yeah, so thank you very much for your insights. I've been really stimulated. I began by sharing where I'm from and the point of my connectedness. Our Indigenous people speak of Turanga Waiwai, a place to stand. Now, this is where we feel empowered. It's where we know we're connected. It's our foundation space within ourselves, within the land, within the universe. Turanga Waiwai is where I stand next to the client who's in pain and wants to seek relief from pain. It's the place where I know that anything that affects you also affects me, and anything that affects me also affects you. And that's why Arthur said, I think, if I and the universe are one, then I am the universe and the universe is me. And he said, no duality, you and I as one. Anything that affects you also affects me. So, ko Aotearoa, ko te awa ko au. I am the river and the river is me. Mati atua koutou e manaki. May God bless you and protect you. Nō reira, therefore, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you.
There is an opportunity to discuss this in small groups. There's one last mini meet and greet through the Hoover system. I know it might not work for everybody, but I hope it does, because I would love for everyone to be able to have some small group time and just to say goodbye and share what you've learned from the conference. And that's going to automatically start in less than 8 minutes. So you want to click on the agenda for that, or if you're, there's a button for network table, and that will take you to that. And then immediately after, we have Richard who will do just a closing of the conference. We can come back together. And yeah, so I'll see you on the other side. Thank you again, Colin. That was so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Luann.